On the waiver?
on the reimbursement, what they're trying to
Yeah, the
do,
reimbursement.
because, yes.
Yeah. Well, waiver has not been friendly as far as increasing rates, similar to that of the VA. Waiver pays timely, but they just have sat on the same rate for a decade and longer. So they are now in deep talks of increasing that rate huge. It's going to be a big rate. It'll be a national increase, not just here. And the expectation is that, they're going to set a certain amount that we must mandate to the employees, which is fine. But it's about time, to see a nice increase for those that are in this arena trying to make it a living, that they've increased, because we haven't seen an increase in probably 8 years, I think, and that was a tiny one, Marty. And prior to that, it was, I think, 10.
Hello, everyone. It's Joel Davis with Home Care Access. I'm in the great state of Ohio with my partners, Martin Rug, and on speakerphone we have Jeanne Rug, who is on assignment in a neighboring state working with the client provider. Jeanne, let them know that you're real.
Hello, everybody.
Awesome. How's everything going?
Good.
Do you miss us? Or do you just miss your husband?
I miss everybody.
Awesome.
Well, the plan, as you know, was a nice dinner for you, get to see each other. But
True. We had a very romantic dinner last night.
But
I got to gaze into your eyes. Don't you change the subject.
business calls, she's on assignment, and we like to do that face to face with some clients. So
What about gazing into my eyes at dinner last night? Focus.
I thought this was about business.
It
We'll
is.
talk about that later. Anyways,
Folks, we are in Ohio. Had good dinner last night with Marty. Talked some about some important things. Doing a lot of good things with Home Care Access. Working with a lot of you. A lot of things growing, changing, expanding in the industry. A lot of variation, hence the reason for this video. I want to make sure that if I'm driving through, I want to stop and see you and get some golden nuggets that we could further share with many of you, especially those that we are already working with, because guess what? We're going to help make your job easier, and you're going to help make your job easier too. But we're going to get to that. But first, let's talk about a couple things. So Jeanne, feel free to jump in, interject at any time. Non-emergency medical transportation industry is definitely changing a lot. And in my sphere and the people that we work with around the country, we're seeing a lot of businesses, a lot of people are closing up shop, trying to sell, and it's definitely benefiting a lot of my client providers in the NEMT space. Are you guys seeing any type of parallel in the home care industry? Are you seeing businesses, are you seeing home care agencies going out of business, or for sale signs going up? What are you seeing?
hey Jeanne, why don't you cover that with the post-COVID?
Yeah, during COVID, we definitely saw a decline, and after COVID stabilized, and I don't see anything more happening in our region and anywhere that we've looked with people that we are servicing now as far as clients.
Interesting.
But we do have, there's a lot of people in Ohio that have gone under. Everything just stood still. And I don't know that it so much has helped us, but it's kind of focused more on the industry now. There was a lot of players out there, and the people that weren't ready for COVID, it's cash flow, and they went under. Nobody could have probably predicted that, but it was poor money management for a lot of these guys.
I think that, and again, I'm going to play one against the other, non-emergency medical transportation versus home care for a second. So I think that a lot of these guys that are going under is because they're poorly positioned. They align themselves with the brokers. They become overly dependent on the brokers. You have rising fuel costs, insurance. Everything Biden economics is making it harder for them. And I think that's why a lot of these in the NEMT space are literally just closing up shop. But that's why I want to bring this to people's attention, is that we don't have that with home care.
Let me tell you, I don't know what the numbers is, probably the benchmark say that, but most people are not familiar, or they do not go after the waiver. The waiver saved us. We didn't lose that much business because people still had to be sane. But when it came to private pay, these guys were losing their jobs, they're losing money, they
So
don't
you're
have
saying the
money.
home care agencies that were 100% private pay,
Oh, yeah.
that's where they suffered the biggest losses.
It affected us, but nowhere near going under, and that was a great tool or a asset to have. So we knew we weren't. These people still needed to take care of, and as I said in a couple of other videos, there's like 600-700 people in our county waiting for
Yeah.
a business. So the business was there, getting people to work, but a lot of these, because all they did was private pay, went under.
Folks, if you are new to the channel, make sure you go back and watch some of the previous videos where we talked about the type of work, the services that we go after, a lot of the private pay. There's a lot of people out there trying to encourage and recruit people to get in and start their home care agency, and all they do is focus on private pay, which is great. We're all for it. But there's a lot of almost what I would call automated, should I use the word automated, when it comes to a lot of the waiver work. I mean, they're feeding you the business. I say automated loosely. It's not that it's
I am in
turnkey,
touch
but
with hundreds of agencies, not that we're helping them, but I'm in the loop, I'm on the Facebook groups, and literally there's people that have done the coaching, not from us. A year later, they're on her going, can you please, not me, but on the Facebook group, can you please help me? We don't have our first customer yet.
Yeah.
We're talking about 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. The reason that we focus so much on the waiver program, it's immediate dollars. Now we go after the VA, which is phenomenal return. Then we go after the
so this is where
private.
you were talking. So last night at dinner, you were talking about. In fact, let's just jump the gun. Last night at dinner, you were talking about the 3 profit centers. Why don't you go ahead and touch on that specifically? We were talking about the 3 profit centers when you're working with home care access.
Now, I'm going by 20 years of experience, and so we know the value of having those profits. It's like a portfolio. But the number one profit center that we would go after, and I do mean profit center, people run away. They don't realize what they can make with the waiver. Anyways, we will go after the waiver. You get your license. We go after, you get your Medicaid license. You go after waiver, which is every state is doing well with the waiver, except for a few that the reimbursement rates. And as soon as you have that, you have cash flow coming in. Now you can sit there and say, let's go after the VA. Let's advertise a little bit. Once you have that coming in, and everybody loves the private pay. But there's some people that skip those first 2. Either they're out of business or it's been a year, and now these guys have to get a job while they're waiting for it. It's just it's a nightmare. And the reason I'm so passionate about saying this is people like to hear what they want to hear. And the easy way to sell coaching is to tell you you're going to make $10,000 next month. And you know, we're not about that.
Don't get me started on that. That's
But my point is that is,
folks. Anybody promising you can make $10,000 a month off a single client is telling you a bold-faced lie. It's not possible. If you're making $10,000 a month off a single client, you're stealing from them. That's highway robbery.
do you want to know how they got that number? Or you want to move on?
I don't even want to go down that road.
Okay.
That's just craziness. But
those are the 3 profit centers, and that's
Private
exactly
pay.
how we go.
the waivers.
Waiver first, VA, private. A little bit of private in the beginning. I don't want to confuse everybody, but to go after
You have to-
waiver,
you
you
have-
have to have 1 or 2
You have to
clients.
demonstrate you have access to private.
And you know what you're doing.
Right, exactly.
You have to have your policy.
Exactly.
There's so much behind besides sitting there putting your shingle out there. We have one customer, I forget which state. Well, I do know which state, but I don't want to say. There's about 6 months worth of work before you sign the dotted line.
Yeah.
They want to know, and they take home care very serious. They're saying, no, you have to have all this in place.
Yeah.
So,
We'll get on. We'll touch on that in a second. But like you kind of set the stage a little bit there. I know we talked about in previous videos. Give us a greater idea. Jenny, feel free to jump in at will. Give us a greater idea of the variations. I really don't think people. If I'm sitting in the state of South Carolina, if I'm sitting in Colorado, I have no idea of the level of variation that we see on a macro scale across the country. Of the rules, the regulations, the policies, the procedures. There's variation everywhere.
Jeanne, why don't you kind of expound a little bit on one state versus the other, thinking cookie cutter which we obviously we know is not true.
Yeah, they're far from cookie cutter. State to state, the regulations change, whether it's private, because everyone in the private sector is now also licensed. I don't believe there's a state exempt from licensure now. So you have to follow the state's guidelines, and then if you're into the waivers, those are separate guidelines, and then you get into the VA, and those are separate guidelines. So with each source of income stream comes its own set of regulations.
All right, so let me pause you right there, because nothing drives me more SHIT crazy than when I keep seeing all this stuff online. We're going to sell you our template policies and procedures. We're going to sell you our template policies and procedures. So can you please, for the record, for everybody watching this video, please let us know, how is it possible there could possibly be a template that can accommodate all the variations between the states, all the variations between the different rules and regulations of all the different waivers, the VA, county, private, et cetera, et cetera. How is it even possible?
Jeannie hit on the perfect example is EVV. You want to explain that, and each state, so on and so forth, on top of everything else Jill just said. I'd start off with EVV.
Well, Marty and I would immediately say run if that were the case for anyone toting that they can have you a policy and procedure for every state. There's too many variances happening. So that's a big part. You just can't. It's impossible.
So, folks,
I wish it were true because, again,
exactly,
we've done this for 20 years, so I wish I could apply our knowledge with our regulations to every state that we have gone through so far. Not one has matched. Not one. So they're
folks,
all different.
If you're asking the purpose of this video, why we're making this video, this is why. Anyone who's telling you there's a one-size-fits-all, there's a template, please pick up everything you can and run as fast as you can. It's an absolute scam. But we see it every single day because so many of the people, and we're going to touch on this, so many of the people that we're working with home care access, you've fallen prey to that. It doesn't work. And then finally when you come to us, it's going to cost you more money that you've already spent, and it's a headache and it's turmoil, and we have to unwind so much damage that has already been done. If you're going to build your business to the best of your ability, build it right from the very beginning. Jeanne, what do you feel about what I just said in my anger diatribe right there?
100% agree. I think that if people have already started with another company, you just need to throw everything away that you started with because it's a contradiction. It's too hard for us to build on something that's already existing that we already know is wrong. So we want to start out fresh, clean, build a good foundation for your business to grow upon, and work it clearly to the letter of the law that your state says you have to follow.
Amen.
If you want to quantify that, there's clients that have been out there that have spent 6 months and many, many dollars. We get the phone call, Hail Mary, we don't know how to do this. Now we got to go back and undo 6 months of your work.
Exactly.
You've already spent a ton of money, and time is money. I know this sounds like a cliche, but to sit there and spend a whole year just to get to phase one is ridiculous. And I would say the biggest, I don't want to say gripe, but the biggest advice I can give somebody is, if you're going to use somebody, start from scratch. Don't mess up the strategy.
Well, it's funny because Jeanne, I want to pick on a conversation you and I had earlier in the week where you were talking about, you said something about you get some of these people, they're trying to do it on their own. They get angry with the state employees and everything, and all they do is build hostility, and they're trying to go through the application process, and all it does is slow and muddy the waters. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think what you're referencing to is if people are constantly calling the representatives at the state level, slamming them with emails a lot, sometimes you can irritate those people and they could slid on your application, to be honest with you. Yeah, so you're kind of at the mercy of the government, and as we all know, no matter what we're doing in life, the government works at a snail's pace, and there's no way to expedite that process. They will work at their pace, regardless of how many times you call or email them, and honestly, after a while, all you're doing is becoming an irritant to them, and they're going to bury your application. So we don't want to irritate the government.
Hey, that also when we were talking that time, you mentioned that just jarred my memory. You said that and I'm paraphrasing here, so forgive me if I misquote you, but you said that a lot of those case managers at the state level have actually referred people to you, to client providers, almost serving as like a staffing agency, giving referrals to you. Am
Yes,
I
we were
right?
talking. Yeah, we were talking about staffing, and I said the nice part is that I can recall my most recent 4 or 5 hires in our own agency currently came directly from a case manager through the waiver program, who called me directly and gave me a client with a family member as the caregiver.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what you were
So
saying.
that's bonus business, bonus employee. So that's a win-win. I didn't have to recruit for a employee or a client to match that employee.
If somebody doesn't know the business of what's happened, the labor pool has just shrunk up. And if you can't get somebody to work, it doesn't matter how many customers you have. So there's a big plus to sit there and get a client with the caregiver. It's a no-brainer. But it's taken 20 years for Jeanne to get that reputation.
Sure,
Doesn't
sure.
mean that they couldn't have that relationship, but it matters.
So, Jenny, I know you can't see it, but I put a couple of quick notes together here that I'm going to read out for our viewers' benefit, because I want to talk specifically that once we start working with you, because obviously I see a lot of the emails and correspondence and talking to you guys all the time, how we can help you and you can help you. Number one, data dump. And once you start working with us, data dump and forget everything from anyone that you watched or studied or started to implement prior to working with us. By the time you come to us, you start working with Marty and Jeanne directly with Home Care Access. Data dump everything from it's baggage, it's previous baggage. It's only going to hinder the process. Jeanne,
It is.
pick up
It
where I
is.
left
It's
off on
just
that.
bad. I think it's just bad habits that start from the beginning with that. You kind of want to bring on, I mean, it's like people that you've hired in your office, like in our setting, if I hire a new scheduler, sometimes they try to say, oh, we did this, or we said this, or we had this contact. You kind of have to restructure that and saying, we're building a brand new company. We're going to set the guidelines. We're going to set the foundation. Everything is going to be brand new. We need to forget everything we knew in the past and start everything fresh.
And the whole idea is that they're going to be successful. We're not doing this because we don't believe in other people and other strategies. We know what we're doing. We're still doing it. I don't know previous videos, but we've said we are still running an agency and we are on top of all the rules, the regulations, what's going on.
So, folks, I don't hold any punches. I call balls and strikes. If you went down that rabbit hole of doing the templates, falling for the scams, and all that nonsense, when you hit the wall, and then you do come to us and you ask for help, you gotta data dump all that stuff. And then, because we're gonna also have to unwind some of the damage that may have been done when you were filing for applications and things like that.
It just came to mind. There's you can go online and there's somebody that will sell you policy and procedures for $150.
Yeah.
Now the state requires policy and procedures done correctly. So if that person bought this for $150, did all the applications and came back, now they're already gone 5 months and they have nothing to show for it. I'm just saying if you go out there, there's all kinds of
Sure.
information, I guess.
Point number 2, folks. Again, I know there's people out there telling you you're going to make $10,000 a month off of a single client. It's not going to happen. I know there's people telling you you're going to make $1 million in the next 6 months. It's not going to happen. Jeanne, my second point is to people, from the minute you enlist our help and we start laying the foundation, start moving your business forward with the application, enrollment process, keep doing what you're doing. If you already own a medical transportation business, keep slinging that hash to make that cash. You need that money. We want to leverage your NEMT business. If you're already discharging people from hospitals, skilled care, rehab, the next progression is home care, bottom line. So you got to keep making as much money as possible. If you're working a job, if you're doing something else, keep working your day job, keep making money. You have to stack those chips so you have money that once the business launches, you have money for operational expenses. Jeanne, kick some knowledge into that, baby.
Absolutely, because the stronger you are as an individual, you will withstand the length of time it takes to establish this business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You can't be going into this bone dry with no money to survive on. And because nobody gets a license overnight, you probably won't get a license or all of your certifications at the end of the 120 days. It depends state to state. I want to reference back to your $10,000 scam a month. If you do the numbers, our 24/7 case is 672 hours a month. If you're charging $30 an hour, that's a little over $20,000 to the agency. You do the math on payroll on top of that. Right there tells you you're not making $10,000 a month.
Amen.
Yeah, well,
Okay, so
go ahead.
you just have to work the numbers in any sense of the equation, and you'll be fed a line. We're never trying to convince anyone to go with anyone else or not go with anyone else, but we want to talk truth to you.
I do want to mention,
Just
Jeanne.
work the numbers.
I want to mention last night. Yeah, I got to eat dinner, but Joel hasn't once said my next point, Marty. It's been my next point, Jeannie. I just wanted you to realize that. Go ahead.
So to play off that, of all the different state regulations, variations, the next point I want to make, folks, is get us information as fast as you can. So be timely, be responsive. When we send you an email, when we request something, when we need a signature, get it to us as fast as you can. You delete that, all you do is prolong the process.
Jeannie, I'm not out of turn saying we usually respond that same day. Is that a good indication? That
I'm sorry, say that again?
We will respond to an email ASAP. That's part of the service.
Yes.
I mean, it's not going to be a phone call that you can call us at any time, but we will, time is of the essence, so we will respond usually same day.
And folks, we know that you're busy, especially if you already own and operate another business, NEMT or other. We know you're busy, but at the end of the day, time is of the essence. You're paying us to help you through this process, get us what we need as soon as we possibly can so we can move the ball forward. Anything else to add on that point, Jenny?
No, I think that was really good.
Good. How about anything else about the, because I know that, again, I see a lot of the emails and we talk all the time and the correspondence back and forth. Anything else about what I call muddying up the waters with the bad habits, bringing in any predisposed positions or ideas or philosophies into the business?
And again, we've done this for a long time, but we've had some people that, I'm not making fun of somebody, but to get an NPI number is one of the simplest things you can do. We have people that have spent a month to 2 months and couldn't get the NPI. What's the NPI, Jeanne?
National Provider ID number, you have to have that to participate.
That's like number one. I'm not putting anyone down, I'm just saying, it's that simple. If to sit there and take 2 months or a month to get the very first. So, as Joel said, we want them to be ready, willing, and knowledgeable.
Yeah. All right, folks, another point. To the best of your ability, do your due diligence and invest into some local market research. Specifically, try to find out what's the going rate for paying for caregivers. What's the going rate for hourly reimbursement for private pay. Again, we're working with more and more people. The more you help yourself, the more it's going to help us and allow us to help you. So by all means, do some due diligence. You're going to want to invest some time and effort into researching your local market.
Hey, Jeannie, what's the top 3 things? So let's say I'm thinking about I want to open in Illinois. Before you even sign a check, before you do anything, what are some of the top 3 things you'd want to research to be ahead of the game?
Well, 2 of the ones that Joel mentioned is what is the reimbursement rate averaging in your state privately. See if you can get a gander at the waiver rates, because those are government, so that's a published dollar amount. And there was another one. Oh, just what the going rate is for the caregiver also, because you don't want to go into this blind. And I say peruse several of the neighboring caregiver home care companies in your region. Look and see what they're doing. What are they advertising? How big is their agency? Where do they service? What are they touting as their niche in the industry.
And how would you find out what their pay rate is? What's the secret sauce? I know it's not secret, but go ahead.
You can, oftentimes now, it used to be kind of a secret sauce where everybody would hold their rates until you agreed to an interview. But with the staffing crisis as it is, it's getting better. But most agencies are more than willing to tell you over the phone now.
Good.
You can say, you call and just say, I'm interested in becoming a caregiver. I don't want to waste my time. Can I ask you what your average starting rate is? And they'll most likely give it to you.
Folks, another point I want to mention is, and again, I'm speaking from experience, things that we're encountering as we're working with more and more people. When you do retain our services and Marty and Jeanne start working with you, we are working directly with you. So if you did hire someone else to do something else for you, don't bring him into the mix. It kind of plays off the leave the baggage at the door, don't muddy the waters. When you retain our services, we're working only with you. We're not going to be working with any other consultant of any kind. By all means, if you have an attorney or an accountant that needs some information, we'll be happy to provide some of that. But on a regular basis, we work directly with you. Jeanne, Marty, you guys have anything to add to that? Because I know that's been a big issue as we work with more and more people. I know it's been a bigger issue.
The problem is folks think that they're hedging their bet, and they think they're adding value to that, helping us do what we need to do. Unfortunately, we've got clients that it took them back 2 months, and they didn't do it because they didn't trust us. They thought they were helping us out and saying, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that. A, that's what you're paying us for. And two, we've been doing it forever. I can do it way faster than somebody can. So bringing somebody else in as a consultant, or not as a consultant, but you always talk about the brother-in-law with the advice.
Brother-in-law advice, yeah.
Yeah, that could kill it. But anyways, if we start from the very beginning, it's the only way to go. Don't you agree, Jeanne? From scratch.
Yeah, 100% on that one. Yes.
What about now, folks? I've talked in previous videos about if you already own an existing business. Listen, I know there's some people, they have the philosophy, focus on one thing and one thing only. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I'm all for, at the end of the day, we're not a one-trick pony. We could do many things and wear many different hats. However, I am a very strong advocate of forming strategic partnerships, limited partnerships, and I think we're starting to see that with a lot of our client providers who are coming from the NEMT sector, who are partnering with people. They brought someone on as a limited partner to help get their home care agency up off the ground, get it moving.
Do you want to speak on what a match that is? NEMT married to home care?
By all means, Jeanne, feel free to jump in, share your thoughts about the marriage between NEMT and home care, the marriage between bringing on a limited partner to take care of one business while you manage the other, that type of concept.
Yeah, as far as the marriage goes, it's 100% symbiotic. I mean, they just match perfectly. Someone who needs a ride to a doctor's appointment, I'd say 90% is in need of home care. If they can't make it to a doctor's appointment alone and they need a ride, they more than likely need help in their home. So that's almost a given. Okay? And then what was part B of that, Joel? I'm sorry.
I want to talk about the limited partnership because we're seeing a lot of the people, a lot of the client providers that we're working with home care access are coming to us from NEMT, and a lot of them who I've brought to the table here, they're bringing on limited partners to help get their home care agency licensed, get it operational, get it up off the ground, and it's working out phenomenally well.
The reason I absolutely love that is because the person that owns the NEMT can focus on that, and they've hired an accountable, trustworthy person to head the home care division who can just take the realm, and they can focus on getting that up and running with us while the owner of the NEMT has a financial stream of income coming, and yet they're still building both businesses at the same time.
Exactly.
There is also a strategy to hire us. Let's say you're an agency and you want to expand, and you're doing $1 million, $2 million right now, but you want to go into a different state. Last thing you want to do is then give it to an underling and you're going to go to that state.
Mhm.
I mean, that's time, money. Actually, it's a drop in the bucket once you're doing a mill too, to add another agency, spend the money for the consulting, have somebody do everything for you, and then open that up.
You brought up a great point. Jeanne, I know you got to run soon here because I know we're coming up at 3 o'clock and you got that meeting. But before you go, can either Jeanne, Marty, both of you, can you talk about, let's do this, with what you just said. Can you summarize, so for someone new watching this video, by all means, folks, go watch the other videos. But for someone who's new, just watching this video, can you give a good summation that when someone does retain our services for one-on-one, can you give a good summation of exactly what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, why it takes time, why we don't want you muddying the waters, bringing excess baggage, why we need you to data dump anything, any predispositions, why we need you to keep working hard and making money. Can you give us a good summation of what they're going to get when they retain our services?
Yeah, like you said, rid yourself of the bad habits, number one. And number two, Marty and I have a system. It's very systemic as approach as to how we get things done. Certain things need done first. There's a lot of things done behind the scenes, and there's a lot of things that go step by step, and we put them in that order for everyone. We always give assignments for people along the way, so they're always learning, because a lot of people have not really learned a lot about home care prior to entering the game. So we want them to really understand the industry. So there's homework for them to be doing also while we're working. But you'll never not feel like you're in motion, I don't think. There's always something happening, whether it's something that Marty and I are doing or that we've assigned you to either read or complete.
What
So it's
was
a whole
the
system.
what was the one state? Once you signed the application, then they sent back. I think it was 42 things before they could
It
move
is.
forward. I don't know. I think that
Yes.
was North Carolina.
Yes. So we're working on getting that finalized because that's a process in itself. I wouldn't want to assign that to anyone, who's doing it without someone. I think that's a lot of work for someone to do. And a lot of it involves the policies and procedures. They want to see that. They want to see it in the format of a policy and procedure with the agency.
And
So
what?
you kind of need those things in place prior to the submission because they're going to ask for those pretty quickly.
So pretty much
if
every
not
state,
immediately.
variation between state, variation between waivers, got that check. But there are some consistencies in terms of there's certain things that they're all going to want to see. There's certain boxes you're going to have to check. Am I right?
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
What do you think,
Yeah.
Marty?
It's hard to convey on a video how much work it takes. The disclaimer on North Carolina is once you fill out that application, you have a year to get all this. I said, so you're going to wait a year to make $1?
Exactly.
I want it in 30 days if you can get it. But
Yeah.
seriously, on the application it says now we need all this stuff and you have a year. It just blew me away.
Jeanne, before you run, can you do me a quick favor and speak to the VA a little bit more?
Ooh.
I want because again, I think that again, folks, if you watched the previous video, I talked about how when I was working one-on-one with client providers in home care, we only focused on private pay because back then the waivers weren't as robust as they are now. The reimbursements were much, much lower. VA took forever. That you could start doing VA for a long period of time, you're waiting months and months for reimbursement. Next thing you know, you're out of business. The VA is no longer like that. Their rates right now are through the flipping roof. Can you both of you, by all means, speak to that
Let me
before you
start,
go?
Jeanne.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think Marty's a little better versed in the VA than me anyway.
Mr. Trump signed the CARE Act of 2019. Old VA, wait for 6 months to get paid. There was all
Exactly.
kinds of different areas you
Exactly.
could go into. And when Trump signed the CARE Act in Congress, they said, these are our boys and women that have sacrificed, and they need some answers. So the whole thing has turned itself on its head, way better for the VA. What they're doing is, instead of the VA taking 3 or 4 months, they've opened it up to the home care, or what they call community. It's just so much easier, faster, and not to be just money oriented, So let's say you have a state. I'll tell you this: Texas reimbursement rate, don't laugh, is like $10 to $12 for waiver. Now that's not what they pay the worker. That's what they get reimbursed, which means you'd have to get somebody for $7 an hour. The reason I'm prolonging that is in some counties in Texas you can get $72 an hour of what they pay you. That's 14 times whatever the math is for that. The VA is not your old VA.
Exactly.
There's tons of business out there. And what's nice is when the government starts hearing all the lobbyists and everybody complaining, they want to get voted in. So waiver, huge phases are coming in. VA, it's already happening. Most people haven't.
So this is where folks. This is where Marty talked about the three pillars, your profit centers. You got the private pay, you got your waivers, and you got your VA. The waivers, and especially the VA, is not the waivers and the VA of old. This is a new ball game.
Not to pat ourselves on the back, but I don't know of hardly anyone competition that focuses on anything besides private pay.
Folks, this is why, again, if waivers, which is government funded, VA, which is obviously government funded, you got to be realistic. Anything that the government is paying for, you got to expect there's red tape, there's hoops you got to jump through, barriers to jump over. That's the purpose of Marty and Jeanne, the resident experts who do this day in and day out.
Jeanne, I know you got to go. Tell them on this video what's happening in Ohio. Just very, very quick synopsis of what the changes is going to be within the next couple of quarters.
On the waiver?
On the reimbursement, what they're trying to do, because, yes.
Yeah, well, waiver has not been friendly as far as increasing rates, similar to that of the VA. Waiver pays timely, but they just have sat on the same rate for a decade and longer. So they are now in deep talks of increasing that rate huge. It's going to be a big rate. It'll be a national increase, not just here. And the expectation is that, they're going to set a certain amount that we must mandate to the employees, which is fine. But it's about time, to see a nice increase for those that are in this arena trying to make it a living, that they've increased, because we haven't seen an increase in probably 8 years, I think, and that was a tiny one, Marty, and prior to that it was, I think, 10.
Ohio wants us to go from $13 an hour that they're making.
To like 20,
how much?
Or for the staff?
Yes.
25? Somewhere between 15 and 18.
What they're doing is saying they know we're dying on the vine for people. Yeah. So now they're going to come to the table and say, and they're mandating that so much goes to the workers. But that's the biggest crunch right now. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot of changes.
It's the laws of economics. It's the laws of economics that actually behoove us as the business owner, as the agency provider. So, Jeanne, before you go, anything else? Anything you have to add? I know we're almost at 3 o'clock. I know you got to go, but anything else?
No, I think we covered a lot today, and I think it was really good information.
Well, I appreciate you taking time to help us out here real quick on this call.
Let me ask you one thing. We were talking about this last week, Jeanne. If somebody was sitting on the fence, I mean, what do you think about somebody saying they're missing the boat or an opportunity cost? If somebody's just waiting for the right time to jump in, I'm just curious what you would say.
Well, I think, like I was speaking with Joel just a little bit ago about especially the clients that he has in the NEMT, it's a no-brainer for me. I mean, there is no reason to think that this is not going to be successful. You're servicing potentially the exact same clients with 2 payer sources, and you could advance those payer sources through home care. You've got at least 3 payer sources strong, and potentially others.
True.
And your brand blows up.
Your brand blows up. You have the potential to cross over the employees from company to company if you'd like. There's a lot of good things about doing it. More good than bad, that's for sure.
Agree. All right, Jeanne, man. We appreciate it, sister.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Call me when you get back in town.
You gotta tell your wife that you love her.
After we're off the video.
All right, Jeanne. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time.
See you guys soon.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye. What do you think, dog?
Great points. Again, knowledge is power, and when you go to the source, you're getting the real deal of what's out there. Not if you want to get rich quick. I mean, we've gone over this a million times. This is not get rich. In fact, all you're doing is wasting.
Don't tell me, tell them.
You're wasting mine and Jeannie's time. That sounds negative, but why waste your money to be unsuccessful? Our name is on there with you, and we have our reputation. So do it the right way. We know the wrong way to do it. We know the right way to do it, and the return on investment is phenomenal.
Agree. Folks, if you are looking for get rich quick, this is not it. If you are looking for stability, strong positive cash flow, a business that you can build, grow, and scale, and sell at a future multiple. The 4 things I want: build, grow, scale, sell at a future multiple. Go ahead,
Here's the nice thing. This business is never going away. Doesn't matter about
It's gonna
AI.
grow bigger.
Doesn't
I
matter.
totally agree.
These people are getting older. They need help. If you're going to invest the rest of your life in something, you want something that can't be taken away. So
Totally agree. It's building at a faster pace, and at the end of the day, it's going to be 4 times the size of the NEMT market.
And if you want to grow, scale, and then multiple, trust me, it's a good investment.
I agree. Folks, I hope you learned something. By all means, look through the rest of the website, watch some of the other videos. Feel free to contact us with any questions. Support at homecareaccess.com.
I want to apologize. Again, me and Jeannie, we're going to treat you real nice.
You promise?
We have
I
clients.
didn't come here to be disrespectful.
I know. But I'm telling you, next time.
So Jenny is out actually working with a client provider in a neighboring state. By all means, working with Marty and Jeannie. They work by email. They help a lot of you pick up the phone and call you guys when necessary. And they actually travel to help you when it's necessary. So definitely feel free to reach out to us with any questions. Support at homecareaccess.com. Anything?
Me and Jeannie do like to travel and go face to face if we want to turn around.
It's supposed to be about business, not your vacation.
No, this is about if you live in Hawaii. No,
exactly.
we have no problem with coming face to face. Our job is to make you money.
Amen. Get you to green. When we do, we'll see you at the top.